Hey, what's up, guys? Retract here. Welcome back to another video. Today, I'm going to be talking about 5 fantasy players who I think you should be targeting in your leagues this year. So, number one, we're going to get right into it. Robert Woods. Robert Woods has been he's been a consistent player throughout his time in the NFL, especially when he started out with the Rams. And so from 2017 on, um, he's been a top 14 fantasy wide receiver since 2017, and he's been a very consistent and not injured player. So 15 plus games each of the past 3 seasons, all three as a top 14 fantasy wide receiver. Uh, his usage is really consistent. You can see he's got target shares of about 25% throughout his 4 Rams seasons. And his let's get down here. His catch percentage, especially the last season, Buffalo was a really big outlier for his time there. But in LA, 65 around there, almost 70 last year, which is it's really good for a secondary receiver such as him. That's mostly his ceiling. He's a wide receiver too. Um, and then yeah, over the last 3 seasons, especially one thing I wanted to highlight was he's got 60 carries, which is that's a really good thing to see out of a wide receiver. He's a two-dimensional player, really. I mean, you can kind of say that, but you can call him. You can't call him the next Christian McCaffrey, but you can call him, Robert Woods because that's what he is. And I'm really excited to see what he can do without Jared Goff like holding him back. With Stafford there, I feel like he's gonna have an incredible season. Like look at that, 936 yards last year with Jared Goff and John Wolford as his fucking quarterback. That's just incredible, and he can be so consistent and so perennially underrated as a wide receiver. Next guy I want to talk about is Robbie Anderson. Uh, he's been a really good receiver for the Panthers at least. But if you look at his Jets years, 2017 he really stood out with that 941 yards. Um, Now you can look at something like that and say that's an outlier because that's his year before Darnold. I forget who their quarterback was, but you know he's incredible. How he's such a good deep threat. Like his yards per target, I think that's what that is, right? Yeah, 8.1. I believe that's above average. I would think for a wide receiver. Um, he's a deep threat and he's really good at it. In 2020, you look at it, 16 games, 136 targets, 1,000 yards, 11.5 yards per reception, which that's a down year for him, really. But he had his best year of his career. So that shows you that he's going to regress to his being, which is a 14, really a 15 uh, yards per reception. And that's really good, you know, for a deep threat. Only 3 touchdowns as well. I feel like he scores a lot more than that in a normal season, especially with is Sam Darnold an upgrade over Teddy Bridgewater? I don't think so, personally. At least not right now. But Sam Darnold obviously has the ceiling to be much better than Teddy Bridgewater. We just have to see if he can do that. And then if you look at his one thing I want to look at that is his longest receptions. If you can see that stuff, it's like about a 50 plus yard reception every year. That shows you how much of a deep threat he is, and how he's completely underestimated by opposing cornerbacks. And I think that's gonna really end up. He's gonna have about 1,500 yards next year, maybe like 7, 8 touchdowns. That'd be really good. I don't know if he can do it, but yeah, we'll see about that. Next guy I want to talk about, another former Panther, or no, sorry, not former Panther. He's a former Panther, but a guy who was on the Panthers last year, Mike Davis. This is a guy who stepped up when Christian McCaffrey came out. I was pissed because I had my first overall pick. I was excited to use McCaffrey finally. I feel like it would be a free win. Yeah, and this really sucked. But I was able to pick up Mike Davis, and Mike Davis, really stepped into that role as the McCaffrey back, and he did amazing. If you look at his yards last season, 642 rushing yards, 373 receiving yards. Yeah, that's 1,000 yards from scrimmage, which is something McCaffrey does. He does it a lot better. Obviously, I think he didn't have almost 2,000, but I think he had around 1,500 yards per scrimmage, and that's just incredible for a guy who, if you look at him, and this is something that really pisses me off, is that he was in San Francisco, and they couldn't figure out how to use him, and I was so mad when I learned that he was in San Francisco, because can you imagine a back like this in a Kyle Shanahan offense? He put up insane numbers. Again, unfortunate, but now I like it. He's in Atlanta. There's no more Todd Gurley. He's not really a rushing, or sorry, he's not really a return man anymore kind of guy. But he is their number one back, and it does say that Donta Foreman, that's a throwback, is meeting with the Falcons today. But again, I don't think they can bring in a guy. There's a guy left on the free agent market that'll take away too many carries from Mike Davis. He did have a little bit of injury concern. That was last year. I think he was injured for like a game or two. I mean, it does say 15 games, but I remember there was an injury scare about him, and that could be a little issue. We haven't seen him get a number one back workload except from last year. We don't know if that was just a product of him being sort of an unknown commodity in the league. But yeah, I think he's going to do really well. I think he's going to get overdrafted, but I think it's worth it to maybe reach on him in the fourth, fifth round, because he will be a really good guy. Matt Ryan, obviously, he's getting up there in age. Can't throw the ball as much as he used to anymore. Yeah, I expect him to have a really good season in that Atlanta offense. Heading back to Atlanta for another guy, Russell Gage, wide receiver. Russell Gage, man, he had one really good game last year, 2 years ago, and I had him on my bench, and I remember I had some monster in a wide receiver 2 or flex, and I was debating whether to throw in Russell Gage, and I didn't, and he put up like 25. I forget what week that was, but incredible. If you look at his 2020 stats, 786 yards, 10.9 yards per reception, and 4 touchdowns as the third option in an Atlanta Falcons offense that underperformed, realistically. But again, you have an above-average quarterback in Matt Ryan. People say he's overrated. I say he's perfectly good where he's at. He's not the MVP guy he once was, but he's still up there in like usability for an NFL team. Again, 72 receptions, 786 yards. That's really good as a third option, and then you throw him into the second option now. Calvin Ridley. Everyone loves Calvin Ridley. I would love to pick him with my first round pick because I think he's going to have a monster year. But everyone knows that Calvin Ridley's good. He was the third best in fantasy. Russell Gage is the guy who's going to become Calvin Ridley, what Calvin Ridley was last year in this Falcons offense. He's just a guy who you can see was incredible in a limited target share, just as Calvin Ridley was. And he's going to take that leap up, I think, next year. I think I'm going to project 1,200 yards. I'm going to say he's going to stick around 4 touchdowns, though. He's not like Julio, where he can't catch the ball for a touchdown. But I feel like Calvin Ridley and Mike Davis as well, just talked about him. They're going to take away a lot of red zone receptions and touches from Russell Gage. And I don't think, if you look at his long for receptions, only 22, 19, and 35. He's not like a deep threat guy. He's more of a mid-range, short kind of guy. But yeah, he's gonna get a shitload of receptions. He's gonna chalk up yards. And I think if you look at his career stats right there, he's gonna completely just tear up the league. He's probably going to have a better season than his whole career over so far next year. That's just in my opinion. So, yeah. And now, lastly, finally, the guy that every fantasy analyst is going to tell you to draft this year, Adam Troutman. And I'm jumping on the bandwagon. Okay, this guy is going to have a sick year in that Saints offense. I think his ceiling is second option, obviously after Michael Thomas. But, again, Michael Thomas, he just had that surgery. You never really know. And, again, Kamara is just going to have an insane year. I think Kamara deserves first overall pick more than McCaffrey this year, personally, just because, again, the Saints' second and third best wide receivers left, their top two tight ends left. Kamara's he's going to get, 30 carries a night, probably 10 targets out of the backfield, something like that. It's going to be incredible to watch him dominate next year. And you throw Troutman in there. Troutman, a guy, didn't really get too many touches last year, only 15 receptions, but a really good yards per reception right there, 11.4 for a tight end who's, third rounder, so they obviously saw something in him. But, yeah, they obviously saw something in him. You could really see that he is going to be a critical part of the Saints offense in a couple years. And they're gonna step up his development a little bit here next year, and hopefully he can live up to it. Because I really would love to see Adam Troutman succeed. He's a Dayton boy. My mom went to Dayton. Little connection there for you. Yeah, 16 targets, 171 yards, 1 touchdown, 93.8 catch percentage. Pretty good. Again, very small sample size. But I'm gonna jump on the bandwagon here, and I'm gonna say Adam Troutman goes off for like 750 yards and 10 touchdowns in this Saints offense, because they're gonna be making a lot of trips to the red zone with Mr. Crab Legs and the GOAT Taysom Hill at quarterback. I'm high on the Saints. I'm a lot higher than a lot of people are, but hopefully they do good next year, because football's just a lot more fun. We get to see guys like Kamara and Michael Thomas in the playoffs. Their quarterback situation, again, most people aren't fans of it. Jameis hasn't really proven himself in the NFL, and Taysom Hill obviously hasn't proven himself in the NFL as a quarterback yet. I think he's proven himself as a Swiss Army knife. But if Taysom can go put up, if these two can combine for respectable numbers, like a 4,000-yard season, and Jameis keeps the ball away from the opposing team, I think the Saints are going to do good. And by that metric, I think Adam Troutman's going to do good. Yeah. So, this was my 5 fantasy players to look out for. Thank you guys for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. And see ya.